this guy? Yeah. I didn't pay the shade very high. You guys seem like a bright crowd. That's my sense. I'm sensing that this is above average intelligent crowd. I'm not saying my sense is accurate, but that's what I'm going to run with that. I'm going to give you 3 quick little stories, and you're going to tell me what they have in common, okay? You ready for this challenge? First one is from one of my favorite comedians of all time, Stephen Wright. He said he bought a new house, and he was checking out all the things, and he found a light switch near the door. And he's like, what does this one do? Nothing turned on or off. Couldn't figure it out. He was just like, I don't know what that does. But he said just for fun, every time he'd walk in the door, he'd go, and he'd make the switch go up and down, just because it wasn't connected to anything. He said he would do this every day, when he would do the switch back and forth, until he said he got a letter from some lady in Germany that said, hey, knock it off. I didn't say he was everyone's favorite comedian. I said he was one of my favorite comedians. See, the idea is that somehow, unexplainably, there's a wire connecting that switch in his house to some lady in Germany, her garage door or something. That's the humor of it. It can only get better. So this next one, here's a dumb joke for you, but again, you're looking for the similarity. Dumb joke. So this is one of these slave galley ships. These guys are just straining, groaning, and the hot and smelly, sweaty, down below bilge of the ship, and they're just groaning away. And finally, and the guy, the drummer, is just, telling them what rhythm to go. And finally, first mate comes down to that. Stop, still the drum, stop it. And he says, guys, listen, I have good news, I have bad news for you. And they're like, what's the good news? He said, you're going to like this. You're all having steak dinner for supper. Like, ah! And then some guy from the back says, wait, what's the bad news? He says, well, the captain wants to go water skiing this afternoon. All right, come on! Because they'd have to go. Oh, I see. They would have to go so fast. One more. This one's a true story, so there's no punchline. I don't have to fear your judgment, okay? This is my friend Mark Imboden, who incidentally, if you know the song, You Are Holy, You Are Holy, this is the guy that wrote that song. Okay, but he grew up in Johnson City, Tennessee. 4 older brothers, so you can imagine with all that testosterone lying around in puddles, there's hijinks in this household. But Mark was the youngest kid, and as the youngest kid, as it always is in families like this, they're always the first one up. So everyone else would be sleeping in, he had his older teenage brothers, he was maybe 8 years old, and he had a science kit. And he was fiddling around with this science kit trying to make this work, and he found, hey man, I got this battery here, and he started hooking up the wires. Whoa, there's power in this battery, and it makes wires go. And he was trying to figure out what he could do with it. And he looks over at his brother, his next oldest brother, who was sleeping in the bed with one of those overnight braces things. Yeah, you are an above average crowd. You're way ahead of me. Those other jokes were just lame. Okay, so he saw the wires. Like, hey, those are wires. So he sneaks up to his brother's bed. Nobody else is awake in the house. That will end in about 30 seconds here. But at this point, no one's awake, so he goes up with this little battery, this portable little generator thing, and he goes up and hooks up to his brother the wires connected to his brother's teeth. And he waits about 10 seconds, and all of a sudden his brother, ah! So, ah! My mouth is on fire! My mouth is on fire! And his parents go, what's going on? And they're like, and his brothers come tumbling, my mouth is on fire! And they don't figure out what's going on until they look over in the corner and there's Mark giggling. Because he hooked up an electrical charge to his brother's bracelet. The giggling didn't last much longer, P.S., because his parents were there. So there was not much more giggling out of Mark at that point. He was in big trouble at that point. Okay, so you heard them all. Now what do they have in common? First one was, I keep flicking this light switch and it's affecting some lady in Germany. Or a captain wants to go water skiing, which means you guys have to break your rib cages trying to row fast enough. And then the third one, I'm having fun with my little battery here, but not so much fun for my brother. So what do all these things have in common? Yes, sir?
All of them affect each other?
Yes. So it's somebody having fun at somebody else's expense is what that is. This is fun on my end. Yeah, but on the other end, someone is not experiencing fun. That's what they all have in common. Okay. Now, I say these 3 things because when you're a Christian, you're growing up a Christian and you're hearing all the lessons in the Bible and everything, you reach a certain point. Everyone does this. At some point, you start looking at some of the commands of God and you say, what's the big deal? Seriously? Come on, really? I don't see what the big deal with that is. I don't understand. Because this seems fun to me, and we don't see what that sin is connected to. We don't see God as someone who's trying to, no, someone's going to get hurt. We stop seeing that and we start seeing God as the playground monitor. You know what I'm talking about? Remember when I was first grade, I didn't go to kindergarten, so first grade everything was a big adjustment. And I remember the teachers took turns being playground monitor. I don't remember any of them, any of the other teachers being playground monitor, but I remember Miss Rudy. Miss Rudy was this skinny lady with an angular face, and she did her eyebrow like this the whole time. I think they lined up all the teachers. Whoever can do their eyebrow like that, you're in. Okay? So that's what she would walk around the playground, stop that, and we swore this lady despises human enjoyment. That's what she's got a sixth sense. Someone's enjoying themselves. Hey, you kids, get up! And she would always be the one like, oh, you don't run, get back there and walk. Well, that seems counterproductive. And she would just look around, stop that inhaling and exhaling, too repetitive. What do you got going? Oh, you smiled, I saw you smiling. Whatever you were doing to make you smile, stop it! I hate human enjoyment. And that was Miss Rudy. Her big threat was, if she ever went, hey, I'll take your name. I was in first grade, I didn't know what that meant. Well, what am I going to use? I picture myself turning and someone didn't put their name at the top of this test paper. I can't, Miss Rudy took it. Does that mean I'm Miss Rudy now? Is that a little unclear on this? But I think we start picturing God that way. Hey, oh, they like it. He's looking down from heaven. Tell angels, you've been down there. What do they like doing? Well, they like doing this. Okay, make that a commandment. They can't do that. What else do they like? Oh, they like doing that. Can't do that. And God is like, just salivating and luxuriating in making sure we don't have fun. You will reach an age, if you haven't done that, at some point in everyone's life there's something, but I really enjoy doing this. And like God's the big meanie who, stop it, you can't do that. Christians are the people who can't enjoy life because of me. Now that's a very sad, horrible picture. But I reached a place in my life where it's like, man, there's stuff I want to do, and I can't. And you get that attitude, and you start asking yourself this question, what's the big deal? I have to see what the big deal is. I tried it. It was fun. I didn't experience any pain. Nobody around me experienced any pain. What's the big deal? So this is where you have to get a different picture of God in your head. Let's look at a story. Not a real well-known story from 1 Chronicles, everyone's favorite book. You have your Bibles. It's in the clean pages of your Bible. 1 Chronicles 21, 1 through 5. Satan rose up against Israel and incited David, King David, to take a census of Israel. Now, if you can pause there without reading ahead, stop reading ahead, stop it. Okay? Automatically, all of us are saying, yeah, he took a census. Doesn't every country do that on a regular basis? But what you don't know going into this is that God specifically told David, do not take a census. David, you remember, was a big military guy. Now he's getting older as a king. And God knows what overblown egos do to leaders. And God knows David specifically, David, I do not want you to take a census. I know what you're going to do. You're going to count how many men are possible soldiers in your army, and it's going to do something to your ego. Can any damage possibly come from an ego-engorged leader? This is my question for you. No, what bad could come from that? But, so God knows this is destructive. You may think it's nothing. You're counting soldiers, big whoa. But God says, but I know, give me some credit. I am the supreme being. I'm not entirely dim. I happen to know that bad things will come from you doing this. But David was like, I just want to know. Come on. I would love to know how many potential soldiers we have in Israel. So, David, even though he'd been told not to, said to Joab, his right-hand man, and the commanders of the troops, go count the Israelites from Beersheba to Dan, that's south and north. Then report back to me so that I may know how many there are. But Joab, remember, he also knows God. He also knows the command. He said, you can picture his face. May the Lord multiply his troops 100 times over. He's at that place where he has to kiss up big time to David every time he talks to him. My Lord the King, are they not all my Lord's subjects? Why does my Lord want to do this? Why should he bring guilt on Israel? So he's being very careful, but he's sticking it in there. You know you're not supposed to do this. But inevitably David, with his swollen ego, I don't see what. Come on, just count on. I just want to know. I just want to know how many soldiers I have. Because I'll feel really good about myself. The king's word, however, overruled Joab. There's a pattern. So Joab left and went throughout Israel and then came back to Jerusalem. Now, because of budget cuts, we did this last line with half letters. Okay. We passed the savings on to these people. Joab reported the number of the fighting men to David. So Joab, okay, I tried to warn you. And then this is what happened. And so, in all Israel, there were 1,100,000 men who could handle a sword, including 470,000 in Judah alone. So you have to think, David's like, oh, yeah, that's even more than I thought. Yes! Because now this is affecting David's ego. And now David's like strutting around. That's right. We got over a million guys. That is impressive. That is an impressive number, even by today's standards, in all of Israel. So now God's like, okay, that's how you want to do it. David, there's no excuse for you. You have been a man of God for decades now. Now, when you're first starting out, I think God gives you some wiggle room. You're just starting out, you don't know this, but if you've been a Christian for as long as David, or, well, wasn't a Christian, follower of God for 50 years now, God expects big things out of you. I would let it slide for somebody else, but there is no excuse, David. As long as you've known me, I just counted some guys. Come on. I was just using math skills, like a Sesame Street lesson. You know, come on. What's wrong with that? What's the big deal? Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and suggest that none of you will ever be tempted to count all the fighting men in your country. This will not be your sin, okay? I'm going to go ahead and lay it down there. But it'll be something else. You're like, I don't see what the big deal. And so watch closely what happens. God does something shocking and disturbing in this next passage. We jump ahead a little bit. Then David said to God, because the prophet Nathan comes to him and tells him, you blew it, man. So David does this a little too easy, I think. You're right. I've sinned greatly. God, I've sinned greatly by doing this. Now I beg you, take away the guilt of your servant. I've done a very foolish thing. Okay, we're good. We're done. I'm good. I said I was sorry. And God's like, yeah, I don't think you get it. Yeah, you said the right thing. You gave me a quick apology. I don't think you get it. You're getting way too good at these quick apologies. So I'm going to do something that'll really shake you up. So the Lord said to Gad, David's seer, go and tell David, this is what the Lord says. I am giving you 3 options. Choose one of them for me to carry out against you. You have 3 choices. God gave him a multiple choice. It's very biblical in case those are on your test. So Gad went to David and said to him, this is what the Lord says. Here's your 3 choices. 3 years of famine. Really? Yeah, or 3 months of being swept away before your enemies. What was David's main point of pride? Military. So there's really no chance he's going to pick that one. Our armies lose? Oh, with their swords overtaking you. Or 3 days of the sword of the Lord, days of plague in the land, with the angel of the Lord ravaging every part of Israel. Well, those aren't good choices. 3 years of famine, 3 months of losing battles, or 3 days of plague. Is this really it? Is there not a 4th option? Nope. Because God wants you to see what your bad decisions do. Just like the light switch that didn't seem to be connected to anything. God, I want you to see that your actions have horrible repercussions. And when I tell you not to do something, it's because it's connected to someone's pain. So David picked, well, the 3 days at least will be over quickly. Let's do that. So that doesn't seem that bad. So he picks the 3 days. Mind you, which don't affect him at all. And that's the last part of that. Decide how I should answer the one who sent me. So what happens is he picks the plague. The angel of the Lord goes through Israel, just wiping out innocent people. And that's where we are bothered in 2019. But next slide. This is what happens. The Lord sent a plague on Israel. 70,000 men of Israel fell dead. Now, at this point, your not fair lights beeping big time. That's not fair. Why did those guys die? Let me ask you this question. And you have all of human history to back this up. How many people die when a king's ego gets out of control? Probably a conservative figure. Okay? Probably not that many. Because my ego, I'm just going to expand my kingdom. I'm going to go everywhere. And probably about that many guys will die anyway, if it makes you feel any better, okay? But what God wants you to see is, I'm going to make you look. I'm going to make you out on the palace roof. I'm going to looking out of your kingdom where you've had your finest moments here. And you're going to see, you are going to watch while your countrymen die this horrible plague death. It's like, because David, I'm sick to death of your quick apologies. You need to know better. When I say don't do something, it's because it is connected to pain. It's connected. There's a wire running underground that you can't see. Trust me on this. Trust me. We're not. And if you don't, people are going to hurt and you are going to hurt. That is a guarantee. I like to do this when I have an opportunity. This is what I call the 3 sound effects of human wisdom. This next slide. Okay? Everyone in their life is going to do this process, okay? The first one is, okay, there are some rules, some guidelines you need to follow. There are some things you're not allowed to do. And our immediate reaction, and it's very human, Paul said, this is what humans do. We immediately go, ew. Now, if you are a 14-year-old girl in the audience today, you are an expert at this one. Okay? Nobody does this better than 14-year-olds. Ew, or 13 or 12. Ew, let's hear from you guys. If you're between the ages of 12 and 15, you're a girl. I want to hear the best of you. Give it. 1, 2, 3, go. Ew. Okay, that's exactly what that is. All right. So the first sound is, hey, there's rules. Here's some things you shouldn't do. And every human goes, on some level, goes, ew, why can't I do that? It seems fun. I don't see what the big deal is. And then you go ahead and do it, which leads to, ow! I can do that one pretty good. Ow! Ooh, So God said, don't. Now, if only, some people, in some circles, they call this instant karma. If only the moment you did it, it immediately hurt. Ow! And sometimes it does. Sometimes you have sins like that. You just snap back in your face instantly. But it's the ones that take decades to create the pain in your life. Decisions you're making now as teenagers that are going to affect your marriage someday. Things you look at that will affect your marriage someday. Habits you get into now that are going to affect your marriage and everything else. And every relationship you have is going to be affected, and you'll go, ow. Now, I pray for you that 2 things. Either the ow, it comes quickly and you learn quickly, or you bypass that second one and you go straight to, It's hard to spell that exactly, right? That's the sound of, I realize, okay. God, hey, he's kind of smart. See, you can save yourself. I have fabulous news for you. You can save yourself. Ow! Just go straight from, ooh, I don't like that, but God knows better than me. I'm going to do what he wants. That'll lead to, I hope you're soaking in the good news that I just delivered to you. You can avoid pain in your life. Here's another way of looking at God besides the playground monitor. Vietnam War. I'm a history guy. Vietnam War did not go as anyone planned. And so, our American troops who had just fought big wars, in fact, show up with our rifles, we're going to go in there and we're going to do this typical thing. And the Vietnamese said, we're not going to play that way. The North Vietnamese, the Viet Cong are our enemy in that war. And we're not going to do that way. In fact, we're going to be very sneaky, and we're never going to face you directly, and we're going to dig tunnels under the big tunnel networks, and we're going to sabotage you in every possible way we can. So the first thing they started doing was Americans would lay out these explosive mines for the North Vietnamese, and the North Vietnamese watched from where they were hiding. They were really good at hiding. And okay, we need to get those back. So at one point, there was one location where we laid out 30,000 explosive mines, and the North Vietnamese came in at night and stole 10,000 of those explosive mines. And now we're going to use them against you. And so what began to happen in Vietnam? Vietnam got to the place, the war in Vietnam got to the place where there were more deaths by explosive mines than there were from conventional bullets. More guys were killed. And this started big. The very first casualty in the Vietnam War was an explosive mine. And these guys were amazingly clever. They would look from their little tunnel perch and watch Americans. They would watch a platoon of Americans come in and park down and watch everything they liked. They pick up magazines. They do that. Every time they see a can, they kick the can. They're taking notes on this. And then they begin to make explosive mines based on what Americans like to do. So guys would come in, look at this campfire. The campfire was just here recently. Oh, there's a guitar! Hey, Tex, you play guitar? I go, yeah. Goodbye, Tex. Explosive. They would take anything you could find. What looked like plans, battle plans. Oh man, there's stupid Vietnamese they left their battle plans laying around. I'm gonna blow up. By the time 1968 rolled around, about 1/3 of the whole war, 1/3 of all deaths were because of explosive mines. But that increased as the war went on. 1968, it was over half of all deaths. There was one entire division, it was about 89% of their deaths or injuries were because of these explosive mines. They got better and better. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to figure out, we're going to research what you like, and then I'm going to attach it to an explosive mine. So a guy could be, oh man, sometimes it was a Playboy magazine that would get sabotaged. It would blow up, guys. Anything you could find, anything you find. Now, the Army tried to, like, this is getting out of control. They sent out a pamphlet. Every soldier needs to read this pamphlet. What to look out for, things to look out for. Don't pick up, logs to put on the fire. Don't do. And they had a checklist, but they couldn't keep up with the cleverness of the North Vietnamese. They were just too good at it. They knew, they watched, they studied, and they figured out what Americans like, and then they would attach an explosive mine to it. It became known in the Pentagon as the explosive mine war because there was far more deaths from that. And so the only way you were ever going to make it through was find someone who'd been there. Find that grizzled sergeant who had a big scar down his face, who'd been there for 3 terms, You're like, I got to stick with him because but these guys were merciless. The guys who were getting killed the fastest were the newbies. The new guys that just came up because they didn't know. They didn't know. And so the new guys were getting killed in huge numbers because you got to listen to the guys who have been there before. This sergeant knows. He may be gruffy. Get away from mine! He's speaking to me so rudely. That's just rude. Yeah, you need to get over that, okay? I don't think anyone ever said it like that. And it was amazing. Wow. Because these guys go, get away from there! They would see, come into a campground and yell at these people, get your money! Jeez, man, lighten up, dude. Wow. And the attitude of the new guys is exactly what the attitude is toward God so often. Like, jeez, lighten up, God. Man, it's just humans being humans, boys being boys, girls being girls. What's the big deal? Jeez, lighten up. God's like, I will not lighten up because I see the deaths and the pain and the agony that your actions here cause. But I don't see where it hurts anything. No, you're not gonna. God knows where all the wires are. I have about 8 billion examples of people who did this wrong. I have way too many. I decided I could attach this to a name, but here, this one happens thousands of times a day. Some young person like, okay, I was told like alcohol's bad, it ruins lives, but I don't see it. So half of all teenagers, at least, at some point, I don't see what I'm just going to take a drink of this. Now, probably maybe statistically most of them will come out of that fine, okay? But you don't know, wired into some of your DNA is alcoholism. And so you take your first drink. That was really good. That was really good. And I'm just having fun. I don't see what God, I got to party. I got to fight for my right to party. Come on. God, I got to party. Come on. And these party people start losing things. They start losing jobs. They start losing relationships. Their best friends walk away. They lose the love of their lives. They lose their home. They can't pay their utilities. And they're sloshing, miserable messes, and all the previous generation looks at them and says, yeah, but that won't be me. And I can tell you that 100% of all those people who are now a big mess with drugs or alcohol, 100% of them thought it won't be me. See where the disconnect is? I'm 13 years old. I just want to try something fun. Come on. But God says, I know where this is connected. This will blow up in your face, maybe 10, 20 years from now. But it will blow up. I know where the wires are. My friend Doug used to be able to, he was a fabulous arguer. If you ever got in an argument with Doug, just give up. Just walk out of the room. Get out while you can. Because he will always have 53% of all Americans agree that blah, blah. He always had these statistics like, at first you thought he's really well researched. And then we eventually took, the longer you knew Doug knew, no, he's just a really good liar. Doug would just make up stuff on the spot. No, actually in England, they don't believe that way. I'm like, what are you talking about? Doug was blissfully unfettered by the constraints of truth, okay? He would just float everywhere. And he would just, and whip out statistics, whip out facts that sounded so authoritative. And Doug was such a weak Christian, but a really good liar. His girlfriend hung on with him, that was my sister-in-law, for like 3 years until she finally, one lie too many, I'm out of here. And I remember he went to her wedding when she married the real love of her life and sat next to me and said, I could have married her. Don't flatter yourself, bud. I don't think you could have. But what did it? Doug, you're a liar. And so Doug would always have these big jobs. Oh, I'm pretty much going to be vice president. No, he's the bottom rung of the sales. And the more Doug, and lastly, Doug's life is a mess. Because he said, I'm stretching the truth. Little white lie. But for Doug, that got to be habit, ruined his life. My friend, Dwayne, great Christian man, still one of my close friends, but he had an organization that he formed, an outreach organization, and it was going great. He was working with teenagers in the city, and just one of these fabulous guys, multi-talented. But he had his assistant, he was married with 5 kids, and his assistant was also a married lady with 3 kids of her own, and they worked together closely. Okay, not a problem there. But then it would be like, hey, I'm going to go meet with, he told us, I'm going to go meet with her, we're going to go over some things and pray together. His wife said, I don't like the sound of that. He's like, oh, come on. You're not going to be one of these old-fashioned types. Oh, we're just planning something. Just don't like this. Well, those prayer sessions turned into let's hold hands and pray, let's hug, and the hugs got longer and longer. And there was a wire connected to Dwayne's bad decisions. Went underground, you couldn't see it. And what it was connected to was about 2 years later, Dwayne sitting down in his living room with his bawling kids. Why are you leaving again, Daddy? I made some bad decisions with some other lady, and this is where I am now. And he would buy back any amount of money he has to buy back that moment of not having to explain his children and his wife. They stuck together, it's all good. But the amount of agony that he caused himself because these are bad decisions. You're flicking that switch and you don't know where it's connected to, you dope you, okay? God knows what he's talking about. When he says don't do something, it's not because like, I hate human pleasure. He actually said, I come that you might have life, the thief. He's the one that's stealing stuff from you, killing parts of you, destroying your soul in hell. He's the one. I know it'll look like he's the nice guy. Satan's like, did God really say you would die? He cracks me up with these wacky rules. I'm the fun guy. I'm the party king. Woo! And I hope you never use Satan away, but a lot of people do. Like, he's the fun one. Why are we listening to God? And God will say, because I know everything's connected. My friend Reese was in Vietnam. Kind of a little wiry guy. So that partly because he was a little guy, he got to one of his first adventures in Vietnam was to be the tunnel rat. They gave him a flashlight and a pistol, go down into that tunnel and see if you see any Viet Cong. Well, I might land on a Viet Cong guy, and he might have 30 friends with him holding machine guns. Get in there. So he did that for a while, and they got off that, finally got out of that duty alive. But then there was this new sergeant. They got transferred, and this new sergeant was he just out of control, just screaming at him. Because he was a new guy. Just like, man, cussing him out. He's like, man, this guy's too intense. And him and his buddy, his best friend, are like, man, can you get a load of the sergeant? Just keep screaming. Start to sit down. No, get up! Can't sit down, really? Wow. Finding little campfires, because that guy had been around, that old sergeant. And so it was just like, you two have guard Reese, and your best friend, you have guard duty, or you have patrol duty. So they're patrolling the perimeter, as they say. And the whole time they're going, Sergeant, man, I'm so sick of him. I'm going to ask for a transfer. He's just so mean and yelling at us all the time. It's just getting old. And up ahead in the path was a Coke can. And they're talking, I know, it's a jerk. And his friend, he sees his friend looking over just time, his leg going back, because for some reason, if there is a Coke can in your path and you are an American, you cannot resist the temptation to kick the Coke can. And the Viet Cong do that. So they're going to path, I know. So he sees his leg before, all of a sudden he realizes, wait, it's like slow-mo, kicks the can. He gets blown off to the side of the road. When he gets up, his friend is in pieces. He didn't know it was connected to anything. Now there's a picture of what can happen to you, not the Coke can, obviously. But when you start thinking, it's like David did, what's the big deal? God says, I'm going to show you what the big deal is. You ought to know better. But you are the new guys. You're young. What you can do now is stop seeing God as the playground monitor. Instead, you can see him as the sergeant. No. Someone's going to get hurt. Really? If I do that, someone's going to? Yeah. Okay. You say so. You can spare yourself that ow in the middle there. You can do that. You can have a healthy relationship with the people in your life. You can have a thriving marriage someday because you didn't sabotage it at age 13. Yes. At age 13, age 9, you can sabotage your future marriage. If I say, no, don't do that. You got to stick to that sergeant who knows where all the wires are. He's the one you cling to. He knows. Stop acting like he's mean. He's out of control. He's the one who knows. Got to trust him or not? That's the question. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for giving us clear words from your book. And I pray that all of us will choose to trust you and understand that is your wisdom. It was born out of invented laughter, invented human pleasure, invented smiles, invented all the best things in life for us, Father.